South Carolina is a state in the coastal southeastern region of the United States, shaped roughly like a triangle. South Carolina is bordered by North Carolina in the north, the Atlantic Ocean in the east, and Georgia in the south and west. It is the 40th most extensive and 23rd most populous U.S. state. South Carolina is composed of 46 counties. The state's capital is Columbia, with a population of 137,000 inhabitants, while its largest city is Charleston, with a 2020 population of 150,000 people. The Spanish were the first Europeans in the area. In 1521, they explored the land around Winya Bay. In October 1526, they founded San Miguel de Galdape, near present-day Georgetown, South Carolina. It was the first European settlement in what is now the contiguous United States. Established with 500 settlers, it was abandoned 8 months later by 150 survivors. In 1629, King of England Charles I established the province of Carolina, an area covering what is now South and North Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. Settled by the English in 1670, South Carolina had a wealthy, aristocratic, and influential colonial society based on a plantation agriculture that relied on a labor force of black slaves. By 1730, people of African ancestry had come to represent some 2/3 of the colony's total population. Soon South Carolina and the other American colonies wanted independence from England. This led to the American Revolution, which began in 1775. During the war, South Carolina hosted more battles than any other colony. On the 23rd of May, 1788, South Carolina became the 8th state in the Union. South Carolina was the first state to leave the Union in the years leading up to the Civil War, which started in 1861. It rejoined the United States in 1868. The state can be divided into 3 regions. The Blue Ridge Mountain Province stretches across northwestern South Carolina. Its forested peaks include the state's highest point, Sassafras Mountain. The Piedmont Province stretches southward from the mountains to the midlands of the state, covering about 1/3 of the state. Its hills rise higher toward the west. Along its eastern edge are the sandhills, which are topped with coarse sand that scientists believe was created by ancient oceans. The Atlantic coastal plain covers the remaining 2/3 of the state, extending west from the ocean, where the land is generally flat and includes rivers and swamps. The coastline also features sandy beaches such as Myrtle Beach. Further inland are fertile hills. The central part of the plain contains the forested pine barrens. South Carolina has a humid subtropical climate with hot, humid summers and generally mild winters, although higher elevation areas in the upstate area have fewer subtropical characteristics than areas on the Atlantic coastline. Most of the state receives nearly 50 inches of precipitation annually, but 70 to 80 inches are recorded in the mountains in the northwest. South Carolina's forests cover more than 67% of the state, and they are also one of the state's biggest natural resources, particularly loblolly pine. South Carolina is also one of the nation's top producers of natural clay, mica, and vermiculite, a mineral that is often used for insulation or for growing plants. Throughout the first half of the 20th century, South Carolina's population grew much more slowly than that of the country as a whole as a result of outmigration of both black and white residents. However, by the 1970s, this began to change, and South Carolina's growth rate since then typically has exceeded the national average. The state's population, like that of the entire country, is aging, but at a faster rate. This is attributable in part to increasing in-migration of retirees and out-migration of younger residents. The 2020 census determined that the state had a population of 5,100,000 people, an 11.3% increase since the 2010 census. South Carolina's largest cities are Charleston, Columbia, North Charleston, Mount Pleasant, and Rock Hill. In 2022, South Carolina's GDP reached $223.9 billion US, representing an increase of 2% from 2021. South Carolina's GDP has grown at an annualized rate of 1.5% over the 5 years to 2022. Moreover, South Carolina's trailing 5-year GDP growth ranks it 13th out of all 50 US states. South Carolina GDP ranks 25th among all states.